This episode of Therapist Connect podcast is sponsored by WebHealer, the #1 website provider for private practice therapists. Serving the community for 20 years, WebHealer offers a non-technical and fully supported online platform helping therapists use the internet to grow their practice. Whether you need a website, a booking system, or even a secure email address for your practice, WebHealer can help. Contact WebHealer today via www.webhealer.net and use the coupon Therapist Connect for £100 off their Do It For Me service.
Welcome to the Therapist Connect podcast, a podcast for therapists by therapists.
Hello and welcome to Therapist Connect. This is a discussion episode. I'm Kim Evans, Person-Centred Psychotherapist, Visibility Coach and Research Supervisor. I'll be interviewing two therapists who are excited to share the ins and outs of running a mental health business alongside their psychotherapy practice. Hi both, it's lovely to have you today. So I will start with Vanessa. Can you tell me who you are and what you do?
So my name is Vanessa and I am a cognitive behavioural therapist, and I am also the founder and director of the organisation Inside Out Wellbeing. So in terms of, I guess, all about myself, I'm all about mental health, all about well-being, and I guess that comes across through my own practice as a therapist and also with my social enterprise. I'm very passionate about mental health education in particular. I believe that mental health education, psychoeducation can essentially change lives, and I've seen it for myself and also again within my practice and within the business as well. So I guess Inside Out Wellbeing is all about providing that mental health education across the community with young people, doing so in creative ways.
Oh, brilliant. I love it. So you're working with day-to-day people in what you do, and it sounds like you're doing an amazing work. And just pause on what you're doing because we will go into your business in a bit more depth. But thank you for that wonderful introduction, Vanessa. So we have Ngozi as well on the line. So hi, Hun, can you tell us who you are and what you do?
Hi, Kim. Hi, Vanessa. My name is Ngozi Kadamus, and I am a psychotherapist and social worker. I specialise in mental health and leadership coaching. I run a multicultural counselling service called Frontline Therapist, and also a coaching and consulting company to help women essentially level up in their leadership.
Lovely. Wow. It sounds like you've got a lot on your plate, but it sounds all wonderful. Thank you so much for that. So you've all spoken a little bit about your businesses. Is there anything more that you want to add about what you do, just so people get an extra flavour about your business and what's happening with it at the moment?
Yes, I don't mind. Sorry, Vanessa, do you want to go ahead? I can go after.
After you, you can go.
Okay, yes, I guess to add to that is my multicultural counselling service specifically serves, I guess, similar to Vanessa's organisation, but we work in the Black and Asian community. We work across all communities, but especially targeting Black and Asian individuals, as we know that they are more likely to be detained in hospital, and they are less likely to access psychological services, and they are more likely to be diagnosed with severe mental health issues, and they are also more likely to enter into mental health services at the point of crisis. So we serve that community especially because of those needs and because of the disenfranchisement and the disconnection between mainstream services and the Black and Asian community.
Yeah, no, that's really true, definitely. And I'm sure Vanessa as well can connect with that in terms of your knowledge around Black and Asian communities and mental health as well. Does that come up for you in terms of the work that you do as well?
Yeah, 100%. I think that's the reason why Inside Out Wellbeing started in the first place. I guess I recognized that there was a gap in terms of, back to the idea of mental health education and psychoeducation, where people from racialized communities, from Black and Asian communities as well, may not necessarily be having these conversations about mental health as much. And especially when we look at the stigma that's attached to mental health, that may prevent people from being able to speak about their issues, but also access the right support. So yeah, it's a huge part of what we do, and is literally why Inside Out started in the first place. And I guess what we aim to do is to make mental health education fun and easily accessible. I know sometimes when we think about mental health, as much as we're speaking about it a lot in social media, across the media, people are becoming more aware of it. However, it still feels like, for many people, they're not getting the right support for them. So this is where we come into play, to be able to look at providing support from an intersectional standpoint as well.
Yeah, brilliant. That sounds really good. And just as well, Ngozi, I don't know if you said your company name, but it's Frontline Therapists, that people might know of or have heard of. And it was built up during the lockdown, wasn't it? And it's still going now.
Yeah, just prior to. So it was to be fair, actually, it was built a couple of years beforehand, but it expanded during the lockdown. Yeah. So it kind of it was established in 2018.
Yeah. And I'm thinking, even for myself as well, with my business that is mainly online, connecting to some of the threads that's already been spoken about, thinking about race in therapy and supporting people from racialized, minoritized backgrounds, doing training for white therapists or therapists that want to work with color, that really started through the pandemic as well. So there was kind of like a catalyst through that. There was more need for people to look at their mental health, or look at race in therapy, or look at, psychoeducation, all those kind of things. So I imagine for all of us, there was the kind of boost that happened during that time as well for our businesses. So we're all therapists, right? But also business women. And in a way, sometimes people might think they're very different things. What inspired you to want to expand your business beyond the therapy room? So, you see your clients as well. What made you think, okay, I also want to do this, or I can do this? Because, people might be listening thinking that's a huge venture. So yeah, tell us a little bit more about what inspired you guys.
I feel like for me, it was actually the other way around, where I started Inside Out before I actually became a therapist.
Oh, wow.
So Inside Out launched in 2017, and we did a community event just to bring awareness to mental health within our, within our local area. And it was off the back of that event where we had different psychologists, therapists, and also creatives come to talk about mental health. And I think for us, it was that combination of being able to look at mental health in a creative way. So it was off the back of that event where people were asking me, Vanessa, when's the next one? I was like, okay, we're meant to do a next one. Let's do it. Let's go for it. So that's when we started doing more of these type of events, where now we're looking at, not just workshops, but we're looking at mental health and, yoga and mental health and drama. So we did a theatre production, we've done, dance events, we've done lots of different creative things. And I think from that, I guess the reason why I started before I actually became a therapist, I was working in mental health, but I wasn't a therapist. I felt that at that time, I had really benefited from, again, mental health education. So the least I could do is, of course, share that with people. And then I guess I was really inspired by connecting with more people, meeting more therapists and psychologists. And that's when I made a decision to actually train as a therapist. It's something that I've always wanted to do anyway. But I think for me, I was just really inspired by starting the business already, and then expanding my knowledge. And I just felt that with the little that I know, I'm sure that could help someone. So I might as well, start in that way, and then work on my own personal development as I'm going along as well. And yeah, it's worked out quite well.
Yeah, that sounds brilliant. Thank you so much. And that's so insightful, thinking of the way round it came for you.
Mm,
And then
yeah.
Ngozi, what about you?
I love that, Vanessa. So it was the other way around. So that was like the landing pad for you to go, you know what, I want to deepen my understanding of this and go into therapy.
Mm,
I love that. I started when I was in training. I actually haven't, worked typically as, I don't know, what would you call it, employed as a therapist. I was already a social worker. So I started while I was continuing my training, and it kind of started because of a need. So when people ask me all the time, like, how do I start a business? I always say it comes from the needs around you, whether it's you experiencing that or people around you. And it came from a need. It was a woman who wanted to work with me, and I couldn't, and I couldn't find anywhere that was affordable and that could work with racialized communities. So I decided to create. It wasn't that straightforward. It sounds straightforward, but it wasn't that straightforward. There's lots of ups and downs, but essentially that was the catalyst. It was a need that I could see in the community, and because I'm one of the as a social worker, I'm one of the professionals that detain people under the Mental Health Act. So I work in the severe end at the same time as a therapist in the preventative end as well. So seeing the fact that the clients that I'm putting in hospital under Section 2 and Section 3, I don't have anywhere to send them. Where would I send them? Where do I send these people to receive, culturally sensitive counselling from? So I can't say that I sat here and, oh, I'm going to start a business. It was, I just want to fill a need. And then what a lot of entrepreneurs will find out, I call it accidental entrepreneur. You kind of become an accidental entrepreneur. You start off with wanting to support people and help people, and you go, oh my gosh, I've got to have a structure in this, or it's not going to work. I've got to have a vehicle around this, or it's not going to work. So the business element comes because in order for it to be sustainable and for it to be effective, you have to create a structure, around what it is that you're delivering. If not, you're just going to, essentially burn yourself out and not be as effective in the long run.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that, really. Yeah, definitely agree with that as well, about becoming an accidental entrepreneur in a way. I felt like that was similar for my experience as well, where when I initially started, I wasn't thinking, I want to start a business. I want to, essentially I just wanted to fill in the gap, wanted to help people, just similar to what Ngozi has said as well.
Brilliant. No, it's really, really true. And I guess for people who are listening and they're thinking, I'd love to start a business as well. I hear what you both are saying. And again, I totally agree that thinking about what needs are out there, and it kind of can happen quite naturally. When you look at people's stories, why they started, it's usually linked to something that's happened to them or something that they see around them that's inspired them to just go for it, really. And there's a lot of learning as you go along, right? Like,
oh my gosh, so much. So much. Yeah, so much. I think especially because I don't have a background, some people might have studied business or done a course in business. That wasn't the case for me. I literally, as I was going along, that's where I thought, okay, maybe I can pick up this course or I can speak to this person. But I think sometimes we feel that we need to be 100% ready before we start something. But I believe that with the little that that knowledge can really, really go far and help someone. So, as you start, the resources are there and hopefully it all aligns.
Yeah, no, definitely. Okay, I was going to ask this question a bit later on in the interview, but I think it feels like a natural place to ask it now, just in terms of what advice would you give to somebody or another therapist who is looking to, start a business? And I guess maybe carrying on a little bit from what you were saying, Vanessa, is anything else you would add to that?
I think the first thing that I would say is do it. Just do it. Just go ahead with it, because I think it's something that we can easily overthink. And of course, I completely understand that there are structures that you need to put in place and things that you need to put in place for the business itself to be sustainable and for it to keep on going. However, I still also believe that when you start, that's when you learn the most.
Yes.
Once you're in it and once you're doing it, you're able to actually practically see how things work. And even if you give it a go and it doesn't work, at least you've learned from it to be able to put into something that you do next time as well. So I think the first thing that I would say is, just go ahead with it. And then once you've, I guess, tested something out, piloted something out, then start to think about, of course, how are you going to make this sustainable? Because sometimes, especially coming from a background as a therapist, we're coming from these helping professions where we really, really do want to support people.
Yes.
But, of course, at the same time, we can't essentially support people for free all the time, to make the business sustainable as well. So also think about what are some of the structures that you can put in place to make this an actual business, because of course there'll be a difference between having a charity and a business. Looking at the structure that would work best for you, doing research, speaking to people, so the people who are already doing it. I'm sure people will be more than happy to offer you some advice about how to get started. I know I am more than happy to speak to people. I speak to people about it all the time. So those are the three things that I would say: get started, do some research about how you can become sustainable, and speak to people who are already doing it.
Oh, brilliant. And you heard that, everyone. Vanessa's open to if you've got any questions about that. Brilliant. Thank you so much. Ngozi, what about you? What would you advise people?
Yes, I definitely think what Vanessa said is essential. I think the only thing I would add, I guess, around it would be, similar to what Vanessa said about just doing it. It's in the process that you learn so much. People want to perfect that idea, or want to perfect the service, when you don't know what's going to work until you start it. And where you start is not where you end up. Where I started frontline therapist is not where it ended up. And if I had thought about it and sat on it for even longer, I wouldn't be where I am now, because it's only in the process as it unfolds that you begin to see all of the things that you experience, and begin to learn the ups and downs, the mountains and the valleys. So you have to start it. You have to kind of embrace the unknown and say that, what, I might be a little bit fearful, but I recognize that if I go day by day, moment by moment, as long as I have an eye to learn, and heart and willingness to learn, that's enough in the beginning. Now, of course, there's going to come a point when you're doing stuff and you might think this is just not working out, or maybe you're working with clients and you're not feeling like you're being remunerated successfully. Then you've got to seek support. It's similar to what Vanessa says, but sometimes you've got to pay for the knowledge that people have gained and garnered over years. So you have to seek, some business support, because for most of us that have come from helping professions, we just want to give and help. We're not like they say, you're not necessarily, to go from a practitioner to a CEO is a transition.
Learn
skills. We go by our heart. We want to help everybody. The biggest thing I always hear from people is, who do you want to work with? Everyone. It's like, no, who do you want to work with? I want to work with everybody. It's like, that's not really how it works in business, yeah? You get the biggest heart as you can, but you do have to narrow down and really think about who are the people that I can serve the best with the thing that I have to offer.
This is just a short break to have a message from one of our sponsors, so please don't go anywhere. If you'd like to sponsor an episode of the Therapist Connect podcast, send us an email for more details, info@therapist-connect.com.
This episode of Therapist Connect podcast is sponsored by WebHealer, the #1 website provider for private practice therapists. Serving the community for 20 years, WebHealer offers a non-technical and fully supported online platform helping therapists use the internet to grow their practice. Whether you need a website, a booking system, or even a secure email address for your practice, WebHealer can help. Contact WebHealer today via www.webhealer.net and use the coupon Therapist Connect for £100 off their Do It For Me service.
We hope you enjoy the rest of this episode.
I think everything that's been said has given such like a rounded perspective, and just helping people to think of, you know, where can I reflect inward about whether it's right for me in terms of going into business and things like that, but also outside external support, whether it's just approaching someone or investing in coaching and like business support and things like that. So loads of food for thought. Thank you so much, everyone. And I just love there's like little offers here, people open to emails. And Ngozi's open to a coffee and chat as well.
Yeah,
so.
I need to drop her a message.
Yeah, no, definitely, because myself and Ngozi do, you know, coaching as well. Mine on the marketing side, and Ngozi in terms of general business support for you know, people in wellness spaces who want to develop their businesses as well. So yeah, we've got some expertise here on the line. So do definitely get in touch. Okay, so I feel like we're just moving through the areas that we're wanting to discuss so naturally, because the other thing I was going to ask is a little bit, if you could tell me a little bit about your modality as a therapist, and also do you feel like there's any philosophical tensions between being a business owner and, you know, the kind of underlying philosophy within your practice, if that makes sense? Because Ngozi spoke about, you know, the journey from being a therapist to a CEO is quite a big one. So yeah, if you did have any thoughts about that journey for yourself, what would you share for people on the line listening?
I think it's, for me, it's quite similar to what Ngozi has said with, you know, that journey from being a therapist to a CEO. Of course, you want to help as many people as possible. You want to support as many people as possible. But of course, as a CEO, as a director, you also have to make decisions. And those decisions could be around funding. It could be about social media. You're wearing multiple hats at the same time. And I think that's one of the main differences that I found where, you know, working in a particular service, maybe decisions are being made for me. And I guess there are constraints around what you can and can't do. So I guess to tie in with your question, so I practice as a cognitive behavioral therapist, and I guess within the public service that I work in part-time, there are particular, I guess, let's say, constraints around the way you practice CBT, for instance, or maybe the amount of time that you can spend with patients, with clients in a session. So these are decisions, these are like, I guess, the type of decisions that are made for you in terms of, even when it comes down to targets. Okay, that's a good example. Targets. These are decisions that are made for you to be able to reach particular targets for the service that you're working in. Whereas, you know, when you transition over to being a CEO, running your own company, running your own social enterprise, you are making those decisions for yourself and for your team as well, and also for the people that you're working with. And there's a bit more, for me anyway, I found that there's a bit more flexibility in what we can add to, for instance, a workshop that we're doing with a university, or a workshop that we're doing with a corporate organization. So yeah, I guess all of these are things that you almost learn as you go along. I think it would differ depending on your own practice as a therapist as well. But I think one of the key things that I've found is that I'm able to be more flexible, be a bit more, much more creative. Like I spoke about with Inside Out, we've done theatre productions, we've done, you know, dance events around mental health to educate people. So the packaging of what we're doing is quite different. It would be quite challenging to do that within, you know, a service, you know, where decisions are being made for you.
Yes.
I hope that makes sense.
No, it does. It's really clear. Yeah. No, thank you so much for that. And Ngozi, what are your thoughts on this particular area? What would you say?
That's interesting. Haven't had any tension. So I'm a transactional analysis. In my training, where I trained is very integrative.
Yeah.
So and transaction analysis came out of psychoanalysis anyways. Eric Berne is the founder. So he was more or less he was a rejected psychoanalyst, which quite a few of the founders of different modalities end up wanting to differ from the founding father, which is Freud. But I guess he started off as a private practice, I guess, and I was taught predominantly by people in private practice. So there wasn't any tension. The majority of the people on my training will go into private practice. There'll be actually less people going into employment.
Okay.
Majority of us are kind of geared in that. But the difference is that private practice in its traditional form is you by yourself. You're technically a solo, sole proprietor or sole trader, solo entrepreneur. And myself, and Vanessa run a business, run a service. We have teams, we have people that we delegate things to. So we actually run a team. And I guess that's a bigger transition as well. That the first transition would be a solo therapist, and you'll take that step to be like, oh my gosh, okay, I am now the sole employer of my business. But then you might expand to have a team. So now you are a CEO of a team of more than one, which is more than you. Whether it's admin, whether it's other clinicians, etc., etc. So I think that's also a bigger transition too. So no, I don't find any conflict within my training. I guess I could say that, and maybe similar to Vanessa, I don't know. I was the only person. Well, I was the only Black woman, so I was the only person of color, really. So that might have been something I had to contend with. Can I go out, as a Black woman in a space that is still predominantly, white and middle class? And that has been the challenge. And that is a challenge, some of the challenges that I face as a Black CEO in a very white, female and male dominated, depending on different stratospheres, space. So that's kind of maybe where the challenges have been and tensions have been, not necessarily with my modality. I actually feel that my modality allows me to be very, very integrative and pluralistic. And, essentially, I after several years now, I'm very comfortable to work in a way that I feel is needed for the clients that I'm working with. I don't feel limited. I don't feel restricted. I was trained to work with clients for years and years and years and years and years. So I work with clients for years and years and years. And I also work short term with clients. I work very expansively, fortnightly. And also with my coaching training as well, I could really integrate that together in therapeutic coaching and with my business coaching as well, and then with my faith background as well. So all that basically allows me to have a combination of things and really work intuitively with individuals and groups and organizations. But I would say some of the challenges that I have faced is, how do I own my potency? How do I own my space? How do I take authority as a Black woman? And I will not only as a Black woman, as a Londoner, as a North London girl that has come from a particular environment, and I do not speak like my counterparts, and I'm not going to speak because that's not how I was raised. How do I remain confident and believe in myself that I also have a space at the table? And this space, I'm going to secure this space. Those are some of the challenges that I daily continue to face, especially in the therapy space that at the same time promotes inclusivity and diversity to a degree. But then I feel like there's always this kind of underlying tension of, we're not always saying what we truly mean to say. Therapists love to say, I invite you to this space, but what does that mean? What are you inviting me to? And what are we discussing? If I feel like, there's some microaggression, it's usually countered with, are you sure? What? What's going on? And you're thinking, but these are therapists who will say, I invite you to an open space. But when you challenge and say, well, I felt that there were some microaggressions, there's a lot of defensiveness. Yeah. And if you challenge that, then you're the one that's said to be defensive. So those are some of the challenges that I think I face as a CEO. But I'm navigating them well. But yeah, I think that I face.
Yeah, no, I think those are brilliant answers, and it's really food for thought. Even people thinking about their social location and being in a position of power, I guess, is what we're talking about, which is a shift from being in a more helping position as a therapist and things like that. And just as you were talking, I was thinking the people that you're describing, these therapists, they sound like they need to book a training course with me at Kaemotherapy to help them.
They do.
Do you know what I mean? Because it is quite insidious in terms of, if people don't have that space to really challenge these prejudices or things, racism that affects us all, like how can they really fully be, like you said, inclusive or have equality as their thing? You know, if it's not going in action, it can't just be something that is said or an idea. It has to be done in practice. So there is support out there. Get in touch, you know, if there's anyone that needs that training. I don't know if you had any thoughts in that particular area, Vanessa, just in terms
of I guess what came to mind for me is that's why a lot of people don't end up starting, and a lot of people end up, I guess, allowing imposter syndrome to literally overtake them because of these things. You know, if you are the only young Black woman in a particular space trying to navigate and trying to do something completely different to what everyone else is doing, you have to be confident in yourself to be able to do that, because of course there's going to be a lot of criticism. There's going to be you know, people who will see you doing things differently that, you know, would be wondering, you know, why are you doing this, what's the point, you know, all of these different questions and opinions that are being put on you as well. So you definitely have to be confident in yourself to be able to pursue something like this. And you know, that's why there's services like yourselves and Ngosi's where, you know, you can get that coaching to develop that confidence, be able to, you know, go on that journey.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's so important. And from what you've said, it makes me think of how important community is.
100%.
Something I'm trying to do at the moment is develop a community of, you know, therapists of colour who can come and discuss stuff around businesses as well. They're called the game changers because, like you said, they're doing something different, and because of that, they now no longer feel like they belong in their study. So it's like, where can they go where there's other people doing a similar thing, trying to be a pioneer and those kind of things. So yeah, it's really important. It's difficult, but it's important.
Even just to add to that, I think that's why it was so fundamental and important for me to launch the Inside Out Wellbeing Awards, which we did in May. Because I think for me, for a long time anyway, just like you mentioned, I recognize that there's a lot of people out there who look like us, who are doing such amazing work. They're doing amazing things, but it feels like everyone's in isolation. So how do we bring people together as a community and also recognize the work that people are putting in? I remember looking around to see if there's, you know, wellbeing awards out there for people like us, people you know, who are doing work that we're doing, and there were a few out there, but again one of the things that I noticed was that you know, these award ceremonies were not inclusive and did not really take into account people who are doing things for the culture, who are doing things for us as well. So that's why I believe that, you know, doing in awards, Inside Out Wellbeing Awards, was a really helpful way of, number one, bringing people together, creating that community, and also number two, recognizing and honoring the great work that people are doing within the community as well. So just being able to celebrate people as well as, you know, network with other professionals.
Yeah, and it looked like an amazing event as well. I remember seeing the pictures. It was beautiful.
It was so fun to organise as well. One of my favourite things to organise.
And I mean, how amazing for people who were nominated or won awards to have that attached to their, you know, profile and stuff, Therapist of the Year, Organisation of the Year, and those kind of things. And I know Ngozi was a nominee as well. So congratulations for Frontline.
Yes. Thank you, Vanessa. That was absolutely amazing. It was just good to be recognised, you know, really. And I do hear what you're both saying about a space, and I think there are more spaces coming. Sometimes when we look at America, there's so many like different things, and you know, UK is like so small, but we need these safe spaces. And I said myself, your game changers, Kim, I have, you know, space for women who are social workers, therapists, anyone in the, you know, health and wellness professionals really that want to monetize their healing gifts essentially. And there is that space. And even before the business element is the mindset element. Is oh my God, am I sure to this? Can I do this? Do I believe in myself? Why me? Who am I? These are the thoughts that I know I've experienced. I'm sure all of you have experienced, because society tells us we can't do this. Society tells us just to work, have children, you know, as women, just put up and do your thing,
Yeah.
How can you be a pioneer in your own field, especially when that's not what you're taught? You're taught to be a good therapist. You're not taught to be a trailblazer and to be groundbreaking, but we have these desires and these passions and ideas, and we need these safe spaces. So I think we've all got things that we're doing, and I know that I work with women every single day trying to help them unleash their potential and say, you know what, I'm knocking down that door. I'm booting down that door, because that door is not going to stand in my way from where I've got to get to.
Yeah.
Love that. Yeah. And even just to add to that as well, even recognizing and creating a community, to add on to what people have started doing before us. So just to give an example, the Black and Asian Therapy Network, from my understanding, they've been, doing their work for about 20 years now.
Yeah.
But again, I might be wrong on this, but from my understanding, they hadn't been recognized and awarded for the work that they've been doing for 20 years up until recently. So it's just things like that, being able to recognize the people that came before us, build upon the work that they've done, and also branch into other areas to be able to create communities. So of course, someone might benefit more from your services than my services, or might benefit more from my services than someone else's services. So it gives people the opportunity to find what is right for them when they are these different options.
No, definitely.
And can I just add, just because it might be moving a bit, but even just what you've said, I know someone probably listening saying, yeah, but isn't the space saturated? And I want to say that, look, these are real 3 Black women, literally all live in London. We're all working with racialized communities, but we're not competing. There's a space for all of us, Spartan and frontline therapists, inside out, Kaemotherapy, game changers, you name it. There is a space for all of us, literally. And if you understand that, if the space is saturated, what that basically means is there's a demand for you. There's a demand. As long as you're going there with a genuine desire to serve and to give value, with the right support, with consistency, with hard work, with all of that jazz, all of that good stuff, you will do what you need to do, and you will grow what you're growing. Right? It won't be easy, but it will happen. But I just wanted to encourage the listeners, if they feel like, oh my gosh, but I don't know if I'm actually late. Oh, you guys have been doing it for years. No. We're still growing. We're still learning. It was harder back in the day. It's easier now because there's actually people you can look at to be like, oh my gosh, they're doing this. Whereas before, there wasn't anyone doing what we were doing. People weren't on social media. It was like, oh, don't go on social media. We all got that in our training. Oh, don't go on social media. Go into the typical traditional outlets and put your practice on there. But all 3 of us are commanding our space on social media. So I just want to encourage those listening that, look, the space ain't saturated. They need you. They need your unique DNA in there, because there's not going to be anyone like you. There's not going to be anyone like Vanessa 100%. Or Kim or like myself.
Yes, you are all unique and special. I love that there is space for everyone. And I think it's so easy to forget that sometimes, because often when there's a platform, it's like there's the one person of color or the one voice to represent all people from a certain background or something like that. And that would be like, them ticking the diversity box, for example. But actually just having this space with us as people, and we all happen to be Black women, like that's totally fine, because we are unique and doing different things. And I think that's such a beautiful thing for people to be reminded of, and also get a chance to know us as well. And even us speaking about what other people are doing, it's like people might be listening thinking, wow, there's loads of people doing things. And I hope there are some, Black women listening as well, thinking, I'm a therapist, but also I can do more. And also, to get in touch with us if there are any questions that they have as well. I think just to kind of touch on the original question and just kind of add my perspective on it, as a person-centred psychotherapist, we've got this fundamental idea about being non-directive. And I think for me, that has brought some philosophical tension in that as a director, I have to be directive. Literally, it's in the name. So there's, like Vanessa said, there's certain decisions I have to make. I'm the fall guy. I'm having to help steer the ship, as it were. So it's really trying to, like you guys have said, kind of step into that role, step into the power that it holds and be comfortable with that. as a Black woman, as a therapist, my own personal conditions of worth, as an older sister, being the helper, being the one that puts everyone else first, those kind of things, kind of, you're confronted with yourself more, I guess, in business as well. So kind of working through those things. So yeah, definitely get all the support you can through therapy, through coaching, through your community, whatever it might be. But I would say the amazing benefits of being a therapist and a business owner is that I understand self-care. I can be in touch with my body. I can try and respond when I need rest and just have a sense of, okay, I've done enough work, because there's no boundaries when you work for yourself, really. You make your own schedule. Otherwise, you could be working day and night consistently. So really just looking after yourself. So utilizing those tools that you give to your clients about looking after themselves, I'd advise everyone as well, is something that's really important to take on board as you're moving into business and things are getting busier and things like that. So that's what I'd say on that. Ladies, it has been an absolute pleasure. Like, I've loved this discussion so much. And, you know, we might have another opportunity, hopefully, to do this. I have one final question. It's a quick one. We don't have a name for this podcast yet. Dun, dun, dun. But there has been obviously a running theme around being a therapist and being a business owner. Is there anything kind of short, snappy, relevant that comes to mind?
Ooh,
what you think we could... Okay, wait, let's ask Vanessa first.
Gosh, no, Ngozi, please go first, because I haven't got one yet.
Okay, I've got one as well.
I was going to say maybe like practitioner to CEO.
Yes, I was going to say that, because you said from therapist to CEO when you were talking, and I wrote that down. I was like, that sounds beautiful.
I like that.
Really, it really encapsulates
exactly
the journey.
Exactly. I think it captures all our experiences, because essentially we've all been practitioners, and now we're both. We're practitioners at heart, but we are CEO in our minds, because we run a service. And we have people that are under us, and which has obviously comes with responsibilities. So I think practitioner to CEO is such a good title. And again, it encourages people that, you know, we didn't just end up as the CEO. We went through the journey, and we're all practitioners still at heart. We all still see clients, whether it's in private practice or, you know, working for someone, but we run a business, right? And we're affecting change in the marketplace, and we're supporting people that look like us, that don't look like us. We're supporting people to be all that they've been called to be. So, you know, if anybody, especially women of faith, that feel like they are called to something greater than themselves and they really want to monetize their healing gills, holler at myself as well, Ngozi Cadmus, on all social media platforms. Take a look at my podcast, my YouTube, and I'm there to support you become all that you've been destined to be.
Brilliant. Anything else
you
want to jump in and add, Vanessa, as well, about what you're doing?
Sure. So I guess at the moment, Inside Out, we're working across universities, we're working across corporate organizations and within the community as well, to provide workshops, training, all about mental health. So we cover lots of different topics, from imposter syndrome to bringing your authentic self to work. Also look at, you know, the general topics around, you know, introduction into depression, anxiety, things like that. And we also create bespoke workshops as well. So if anyone is interested in that, then please feel free to follow us on social media. So we are at Inside Out Wellbeing _. We've also got our website, www.insideoutwellbeing.org. If you're interested in any of those services, workshops, support groups, training, then please feel free to message me. If you're looking for, I guess, general advice around starting a business or social enterprise, then please feel free to follow my personal page, which is at Nessa Banks. So that's NESSABANKS_.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And everyone's details will be accessible, you know, at the bottom of the podcast, so people will be able to get those details again. But thank you both for your time. It's been wonderful to speak to you both, and I hope to be in touch with you all soon. It's okay. You're welcome.
Thanks for inviting us.
Anytime. Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you for listening to the Therapist Connect podcast. Go to www.therapist-connect.com for more discussions and debates.
This episode of Therapist Connect podcast is sponsored by WebHealer, the #1 website provider for private practice therapists. Serving the community for 20 years, WebHealer offers a non-technical and fully supported online platform helping therapists use the internet to grow their practice. Whether you need a website, a booking system, or even a secure email address for your practice, WebHealer can help. Contact WebHealer today via www.webhealer.net and use the coupon Therapist Connect for £100 off their Do It For Me service.